is me, Kevin the Pug. I'm here today on a Sunday. Yes, it's actually a Sunday. And we're going to do the Super Dick Sunday. Sunday. Yes, I do the Sunday head tilt. I am so good. So Daddy says that he's going to do the deck profile and he's going to try and do it super quick before it gets hot. And we're parked in the shade, so hopefully if he does it in like 20 or 25 minutes, we can get this done and we can go home and I can have some extra tweets like meat sticks and stuff. And it'll be awesome. But in the meantime, I'm going to have a few livers and you guys are going to watch Daddy do a pugtastic video. Okay, day? Okay, day. Daddy, set up the video and give me my livers. Yes, Kaba. Here are your livers for doing a fine job. Thank you. So today I have a Yu-Gi-Oh deck for you guys, mainly because I was actually going to do the 5-color ally avatar deck that I've been talking about for a while. But I literally finished it at like ironically, the 11th hour. It was like, I think it might actually even have been after midnight, but I want to say it was at the 11th hour. It was like 11:30 or something like that when I finally finished the deck and started trying to sleeve it. So I was pretty happy about that, but I didn't really have time to properly like break it down. So instead today we are going to look at my other Crystal Beast deck because when I mentioned my first Crystal Beast deck to you guys, the one with all the forests and stuff, and that included the Naturia monsters, I did happen to say that I had a second Crystal Beast deck that was much more Crystal Beast focused first. And second, I had another deck that I felt really kind of tied in with the whole theme because we've been kind of doing this theme of like landfall for the last like 6 weeks or so. Maybe it hasn't been quite 6 weeks. It might have only been a month. I can't remember for sure. We definitely covered the blue, black, green landfall deck. We covered the Avatar Earthbending deck. We covered Cody's Cody the Cartographer, that beautiful Gates deck that we built in 1-100. And we talked about my forest deck because forests are a bunch of lands, and there's a lot of actual like field spells in that deck. And field spells are basically like playing a land with special abilities kind of like thing, except you don't have to tap it for any mana in this game. So I at least that's the way I look at it, like the comparison. If I were to look at like specialized lands, they're essentially just field spells from Yu-Gi-Oh that tap for mana. But so I have the Crystal Beast deck, like I say here for you guys today. It actually consists of 3 parts, I believe. I'm just going to do a quick double check. We've got the Crystal Beast section here. The second section consists largely of Gem Knights, which are over here. And then I believe this third section... Oh, there are 4 sections, pardon me. There are 4 sections because the 4th section's so tiny. The third section is fossils, which I think makes this deck really fun because we got like mining, we've got dinosaur fossil digging, and we've got crystals, so it's like all stuff that you dig for in the ground. And then the last little chunk is just a bunch of random stuff that I added in that I thought made the deck fun. And when I say fun, some people are going to instantly say this is not a fun deck when I reveal these first few cards, but I'm telling you, it is a very fun and entertaining deck to play. Just because it has this one particular card that everybody gets hung up on does not mean it's a bad deck. It just means that it's forbidden. You're going to lay over there and have a nice little relax, I know. You're very tired. Yes. You're very tired, I know. The park trip was a little bit hard on you at the end there because of the animal control people showing up and they ruined your fun. I know. We were going to actually do some ball play at the end of our video today, but there was just no way I'm going to try to do that with animal control driving around and get a ticket. And the last time we went to the baseball park, you guys haven't seen this yet, but it's going to end up being one of the episodes of Kaiba the Stubborn Pug because it just really was a waste of time for me. I don't mean that to be mean, but Kaiba just like played with the ball maybe once and then looked at me like, I told you I didn't want to come here. Anywho, you guys will see that later on if you join the Patreon. But in the meantime, let's get into this deck. So we're starting off with Ausa, the Earth Charmer, Immovable. It takes 2 monsters, including an Earth monster, to link summon this, and it counts as a familiar possessed. You can target 1 Earth monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon it to your zone that this card points to, and then if this thing is link summoned, if this link summoned creature is destroyed by battle or is destroyed by an opponent's effect while you have it in your monster zone, you can add 1 Earth monster with 1500 or less defense from your deck to your hand, and then, yeah, but you only get each effect once per turn. Still a pretty cool card. For Link monsters, that is. I'm not a huge fan of Link monsters, and there's only these 2 Link monsters, I think, in this entire deck. There might be 1 more in the Gem Knight section, but that's about it. I'm not a huge fan of Link monsters, as you guys know. Kind of ruined the game for me. But I like these ones because they felt like they really fit the theme of the deck, since it's very Earth-based and digging up the Earth and that kind of stuff, so... Anyways, Geonator Transverser. 2 effect monsters. When this thing is link summoned, or this link card, and all monsters it points to cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. If this card points to 2 monsters, you can switch control of those monsters, which is cool. So essentially, this thing will point to one of my opponent's monsters and one of my monsters when it comes into play, and then in theory, if I want, I can switch control of those monsters, which is pretty cool. I've got Magical Stone Excavation, largely to get me back a fusion spell to help with the Fossil Skulls and the Gem Knights, because they all need to be fusion summoned. Depth Amulet, when an opponent declares an attack. This is also in my Forest deck. I love this card, though, because it really looks like it fits the Crystal Beast theme so nicely. You can discard a card to negate that attack. You have to destroy this after the 3rd end phase, after it's been activated. But I mean, this is basically like a Swords of Revealing Light kind of thing. It just costs you cards out of your hand, which is kind of nice. Dwimmer Glimmer, activate by banishing 1 face-up monster you control, or 1 monster in your graveyard. Special summon this as a normal monster with the same level as the banished card. And then, yeah, it has 0 attack and defense, but it basically is good for XYZ summoning, or if you need to synchro summon. Not that this deck does any of that stuff. More so than anything else, this is in here largely because it kind of fits the theme. And I figured I can always use it as a blocker if need be in a worst case scenario. Heavy Storm Duster, I love this card. Destroy 2 spell trap cards on the field. And then you can't do your battle phase, but I mean, if you activate this on your opponent's turn, that doesn't really matter. Mirror Force, to just deal with my opponent's attacking creatures in case I can't deal with them with Death Amulet. I think Labyrinth of Nightmare is a fun one for this deck. During the end phase of each turn, change the battle position of all face-up monsters on the turn player's side of the field. It makes you have to really think about this strategically, how you're going to play this. And this card combos really well with the really nasty card in this deck that everybody hates, so I thought that it was a good one to include. Terraforming, to help me get to that card that everybody hates. Also Metaverse for the same reason, because the hate card is definitely a field spell, and if you haven't guessed it yet, I'm going to be shocked, but if you have, congratulations, it is Mystic Mine. I mean, come on, it's a mining deck. It had to include Mystic Mine, guys, it had to. So Mystic Mine says, if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, your opponent cannot activate monster effects or declare an attack. If you control more monsters than your opponent does, you cannot activate monster effects or declare an attack. And once per turn during the end phase, if both players control the same number of monsters, we have to destroy this card. The goal with this card is essentially to do the whole Labyrinth of Nightmare thing with this, to lock out my opponents from being able to attack me, per se, because a lot of the Gem Knights have pretty decent defense. And so the idea being just to have a bunch of blockers to keep my life points safe, and on my turn, I hopefully will be able to attack into their weaker defense creatures, because a lot of people don't think to play heavy defense if they're looking to try and win. And then that way I can keep Mystic Mine in play as long as possible. So Metaverse lets me get the field spell from my deck and activate it or add it to my hand. This one just lets me put it in my hand only, but there's going to be a bunch of other field spells in here too, which is again why this deck, even though it has Crystal Beasts as well, really fits the landfall theme that we've been doing for the last little while. And again, that's the other reason why the Avatar deck really didn't make sense to do today, per se, because I felt like the Avatar deck really is more of a creatures helping creatures deck than it is a land landfall kind of deck. Anywho, we got Fossil Skullbone, Fossil Warrior Skullbone, Fossil Warrior Skull Knight, and Fossil Warrior Skull King are all in this set. I have actually most of the fossil monsters, to be honest. So just looking at these real quick, has to be special summoned with Fossil Fusion. There's only 2 Fossil Fusions in this deck because I could only get my hands on 2 at the time I built it. When this thing attacks during each battle phase, you can banish a card from your graveyard, add 1 Time Stream from your deck to your hand. I do not believe I actually have a Time Stream card. Like, I don't think I own a copy of Time Stream, so but if I do have a copy of it, I decided to cut it before because I didn't think it was a very good card. At least I'm pretty sure it's not in here. Now I'm going to say that, and then I'm going to watch, and it's going to be in here somewhere. But I'm pretty sure it's not. Yeah, it's not. Okay. Yeah, we're good. All right. Continuing on, sorry. The Skull Knight, it has to be for special summon with Fossil Fusion. If it attacks a defense position monster, I get to do it piercing damage. When it destroys a monster by battle, I can have it make a second attack in a row, which is pretty badass. It's got a decent attack line too. The fossil cards all have pretty kind of weak defense because they're kind of like zombies but made out of rocks, so it's kind of funny that way. And then the Skull King has to be fusion summoned with Fossil Fusion, can make a second attack during each battle phase. If it attacks a defense position monster, it inflicts piercing damage. And during your opponent's turn, you can target 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard, discard a card. If you do, special summon that monster to your field. That is insane as an extra ability. I love the fossil cards. We got Fossil Dragon Skullgar. It can attack a defense position monster for piercing damage. Banish this card from your graveyard, add Fossil Fusion from your deck to your hand. Pretty decent. Has a solid attack, but no defense, of course. Fossil Dragon Skullgios, pardon me. Insanely powerful attack, no defense. All the usual stuff about summoning. 4 damage calculation. If this card battles an opponent's monster, you can switch the current attack and defense of that monster until the end of the damage step, which is insane. If this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing damage. So, I mean, all these ones that are inflicting piercing damage are going to really benefit from me having the Labyrinth of Nightmare out there, too. So, that's another reason to play it in this deck. And any battle damage it inflicts to your opponents is doubled, which is crazy. Fossil Machine Skullbuggy. Destroy, must be special summoned, When this thing destroys an opponent's monster by battle, inflicts 600 damage. Banish this thing from your graveyard, add 1 monster from your deck to your hand that mentions Fossil Fusion. There's not a lot of cards that mention Fossil Fusion, but other than Fossil Fusion itself, but you know. Skull Wagon, just basically an upgraded version of Skull Buggy. Can make 2 attacks on monsters during each battle phase. When this thing destroys an opponent's monster by battle, inflict 800 damage to it, and then to the opponent, You can banish this thing from your graveyard. Target 1 spell or trap card on the field, destroy it. Pretty decent. That one's actually probably got the best defense overall, 1500, I think. Nope, there's an 1800, pardon me. Skull Convoy. So these ones are all more evenly balanced compared to the rest, which are all insanely overbalanced, but last one, Fossil Machine Skull Convoy. Fossil Fusion. While you control a fusion summon card, all monsters your opponents control lose attack equal to their original defense, which is insane. This guy can make 3 attacks on monsters during each battle phase, and when this thing destroys an opponent's monster by battle, inflict 1,000 points to them. Then we get into the Fossil Fusion. As I say, I had 2 copies of that. So when this thing is played, you fusion summon a Fossil Fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing monsters mentioned from any graveyard. So you don't have to, you can't get the cards off the field. They have to be in the graveyard, which is why I actually have the next card that I'm going to be showing you shortly in this deck in particular. But yeah, so essentially what you have to do for the most part is you have to either use a monster in your graveyard or it can be a monster in your opponent's graveyards too. Some of them specifically say, 2 of them specifically say it has to be your opponent's. The rest can be either graveyard, I believe. Yeah, fusions according to Fossil Fusion, which is nice. So you banish the monsters from the graveyard, then neither player can target the special summon monster with monster effects. And then if a face-up Fossil Fusion monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect while this card is in your graveyard, you can add this thing back from your graveyard to your hand. So it's just a nice little recyclable card, which is really good. So you can play all your Fossil Fusion monsters. The next card I mentioned was another field spell. It is Catapult Zone. I love this card. So once per turn, if a monster you control would be destroyed by battle, you can send one rock-type monster from your deck to the graveyard instead. Thus, you can keep your board presence intact. A little bit, not a lot, because you can only do it once per turn, but still. And the big thing is this deck has a lot of rock monsters, as you're about to see in a bit. But first, let's just cover the last couple of fusion cards in this deck. I think I put this one in the wrong spot. It's supposed to be in the other section. I've got Fusion Deployment to help me get a fusion monster from my deck to my hand, or special summon it. Special summon from your hand or deck one of the fusion materials specifically named. Oh, that's not in the right pile. These are supposed to be in the Gem Knights pile. Okay, that makes more sense. I'll show those when we get to the Gem Knights. I apologize. But, spoiler. Fossil Dino Pachipafalo? Neither player can special summon monsters. When this card is flipped face up, destroy all special summon monsters on the field. I just put this one in and the Fossil Tusker largely because I felt like they should go with the fossil cards in this deck. But I do think that that's a really nice little ability if I'm getting hammered down by other people's extra deck and I can't get mine motivated, then that's a nice little out. Fossil Tusker's kind of cute, and when this thing destroys an opponent's monster of a battle and sends it to the graveyard, inflict 400 damage to your opponent. So essentially Fossil Tusker is like the basis for all of the Buggy, the Wagon, and the Convoy cards in the extra deck. At least that's the way my imagination looks at it. I've got 2 Guardian statues. Once per turn during your main phase, you can flip this into face down defense position. When this thing's flip face up, or flip summoned, you return one monster on your opponent's side of the field to its owner's hand. So these are nice little cards to help me get out of the issue with my opponent's board state when the Labyrinth of Nightmare goes off. Plus, Labyrinth of Nightmare only affects face-up monsters, so flipping those 2 into face down is really nice because they will stay in defense position at the end of my turn. Lost Guardian, the original defense of this card becomes the number of your rock-type monsters removed from play times 700, so this can get pretty beefy. Moi Interceptor Cannons, another one that can flip face down, and just basically lets me play something in defense position if I want to, after I attack with it. Gigantes, I love Gigantes. You have to be special summoned by removing from play 1 earth monster in your graveyard, which is fine. And when this thing's destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you get to wipe out all the spell and trap cards on the field. So it's kind of like a little looming threat on the board, like, don't kill this, because if you kill this by battle... The only thing that sucks is specifically by battle. If it was like by any effect, that would be amazing, but it is what it is. Power Giant, because, come on, it looks like crystals, it looks like Gem Knights, it fits so well. You can send one level 4 or lower monster from your hand to the graveyard, special summon this card from your hand, and then decrease this level by the level of that monster. If this card attacks, or is attacked until the end of the damage step, any effect damage you take becomes 0, which is kind of nice. So anybody that has like the piercing damage, anybody that has like the Skull Buggy, if they were to steal it from me, they can't do damage to me by their bonus effects, which is kind of cool. The other thing that I like about this one is it is a rock. All these ones are rock monsters, which we need rock monsters to do our fusion summon of our fossils, of course. Next up, we have 2 copies of Man Strong, Prime Mineral, 2000, 3000, pretty good stat line. You can set this card from your hand in your spell trap zone as a spell during your end phase. If this card is in the graveyard because it was destroyed by an opponent's card effect this turn while it was set on your field, you can special summon it, then you add 1 monster from your graveyard to your hand except this thing. Pretty cool little bluff, essentially, as a trap card. I have 1 copy of Prime Mineral Congrate, 3000, 2000, so the flip of the other one. And must be special summoned by a card effect, can't be special summoned, or cannot be normal summoned or set. If this thing is sent from your opponent's hand or deck to the graveyard, if a monster is sent, you can special summon this from your hand in face down defense position, which is pretty cool. And then if this card is flipped face up, you can target 2 cards on the field and destroy them. And then finally, the big beefy boy of the deck that I love, before we get into the 2 main chunks of the deck, is Mega Rock Dragon. Cannot be normal summoned or set, has to be special summoned by removing from play a rock type monster in your graveyard, minimum 1. Can be many, many more though. And this thing's attack and defense become the number of rock type monsters that you remove to special summon it times 700. So essentially, if I'd have a whole bunch of my fossil monsters in my graveyard, I can remove them. If I have some of these guys and I haven't been able to get my fossil fusions out, I can remove those. And Mega Rock Dragon just becomes this big ass monster on the field, which is cool. Because it's definitely like the perfect representation of Earth. I will do the Gem Knights next because I did say that this deck was the Crystal Beast deck mainly, so we will get that. I'm going to try and go a little quicker because I'm already at 21 minutes and I realize I have a limit on how much memory I have available. So I apologize in advance for doing this, but that's what we're going to do. Gem Knight Master Diamond must be fusion summoned. Gets 100 attack for each Gem Knight monster in your graveyard. Once per turn, you can banish 1 level 7 or lower Gem Knight fusion monster from your graveyard until end phase. This thing's name and original effect become the same as that one's. Takes 3 Gem Knight monsters to get this one on. Ruby needs a Garnet and any other Gem Knight monster. Has to be fusion summoned with the above fusion material monsters. Once per turn, you can tribute 1 face-up Gem Knight monster. This card gains attack equal to the tribute monster's attack on the field until the end phase, and then when this thing attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage. Must be fusion summoned. If this card attacks or is attacked, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects until the end of the damage step. Can be 1 Pyro-type monster and any Gem Knight monster. Gem Knight Sapphire and any Gem Knight monster must be fusion summoned. Can, with the above fusion material monsters, if this card attacks, it's changed to defense position. But because of Labyrinth of Nightmare, it'll get changed back at the end of the turn. And then when this thing is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can target 1 card your opponent controls and return that target to the hand. The downside is if Labyrinth Nightmare is out, that actually negates this thing's beefy defense. So you actually kind of don't want Labyrinth Nightmare out at the same time as this one, but... Gem Knight Amethyst, any Gem Knight and an Aqua type must be fusion summoned. When this thing's sent from the field to the graveyard, return all set spell trap cards on the field to the hand. Topaz needs Tourmaline and any monster. That's the Gem Knight. Can attack twice during each battle phase. When this thing destroys a monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, inflict damage equal to your opponent. To your opponent equal to the attack of the destroyed monster in the graveyard. Craziness. Prize Mora. Any Gem Knight monster, any Thunder type monster, which I think there's a few, but not a lot. Must be fusion summoned once per turn. You can send 1 Gem Knight monster from your hand to the graveyard to target 1 face-up card on the field and destroy that target. Gem Knight monster and a light monster for Seraphinite. Must be fusion summoned. During your main phase, you can normal summon set 1 monster. In addition to your normal summon set, pretty cool ability there. I hope these have all been on screen. I apologize. Let's just do this real quick. Master Diamond, Ruby, Citrine, Aquamarine, Amethyst, Topaz, Prismara, Seraphinite, Lady Rose Diamond. I actually have 2 copies of her. Must be fusion summoned with a Gem Knight and a Fairy monster. I don't know why I have 2 copies of her. I think it's just because I accidentally either bought 2 or somebody tossed in an extra one by mistake in my order. She might be needed for something else, but I can't remember for sure. She might be needed for that one. Anyways. We should probably move that one there. Once per turn, the first time a Gem Knight monster you control would be destroyed by a card effect, it's not destroyed during your turn. When your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you can banish 1 Gem Knight monster from your graveyard, target the face-up monster your opponent controls, and destroy it. Pretty good. So there's 2 copies of that, like I say. And then there's 1 copy of Lady Brilliant Diamond, which I think she needs the other one, but I can't remember for sure. Must be fusion summoned with the above materials. You can only special summon Gem Knight Lady Brilliant Diamond once per turn. Once per turn, you can send 1 face-up Gem Knight monster you control to the graveyard, and if you do, special summon 1 Gem Knight fusion monster from your extra deck, ignoring any summoning conditions. I could be wrong. I thought she might have had need. Anyways, it's whatever. Lapis Lazuli Needs Lapis and a Gem Knight monster. Must be fusion summoned with the above materials. You can only special summon this thing once per turn. Once per turn, you can send one Gem Knight monster from your main deck or extra deck to the graveyard, and if you do, inflict 500 damage to your opponent for each special summon monster on the field. That includes my side and their side, so that's pretty insane. And finally, Zirconia. Any Gem Knight monster and any Rock type monster is just a big ass beefy boy. Phantom Quartz is the Link monster I mentioned before, 2 gem monsters, and then this thing Link summoned, you can add a Gem Knight monster from your deck to your hand. You can pay 1,000 life points, fusion summon 1 Gem Knight fusion monster from your extra deck by shuffling fusion monsters in your possession listed on it into your deck that are banished or in your graveyard. Interesting, but it cannot attack directly this turn. Pretty cool ability as a Phantom Quartz. And finally, Pearl. 2 level 4 monsters just to get a beefy-ish boy. You know, nothing major about Pearl. This is where fusion deployment is important because it lets me get the materials needed for the certain specific Gem Knights. Greater Polymerization. Fusion summon 1 fusion monster from your extra deck by using 3 or more monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. And then if you do, it gains these effects. The card cannot be destroyed by card effects, and if this card attacks a defense position monster and inflict piercing battle damage, that's just an insanely good polymerization. We've got 2 copies of Gem Knight Fusion. Send from your hand or your side of the field to the graveyard the fusion materials that are listed on a Gem Knight Fusion material card monster. Then special summon the fusion card from your extra deck. If this card is in your graveyard, you can banish a Gem Knight monster from your graveyard to add this back. Particle Fusion, I have 1 copy of. Send from your side of the field to the graveyard the fusion material monsters that are listed on a Gem Knight fusion monster, and special summon the fusion monster from your extra deck. When you do, banish cards from your graveyard to target 1 Gem Knight fusion monster material monster used for that fusion summon. The fusion summon monster gains that monster's attack until end of turn. Oh, okay, never mind. I read that horribly. When you do, you banish one of the cards that you used to summon that fusion material card or fusion monster, and then you and get that power. I have 2 copies of Scatter Fusion as well. One that is really cool. They're like from different sets, but I like them both. During your main phase, if your opponent controls a monster and you can fusion summon a non-rock Gem Knight monster from your extra deck using materials from your deck as material. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from your extra deck for the rest of the turn, except Gem Knight monsters. You can only use this effect of Scatter Fusion once per turn. When this effect card leaves the field, destroy all monsters summoned by this card's effect. So, I mean, I don't probably need both, but if I have a hard time drawing them, then I can get to them. Brilliant Spark. 1 face-up Gem Knight monster you control is destroyed by your opponent's attack or card effect. Target one of those destroyed monsters. And inflict damage to your opponent equal to the original attack. And then if this card is in your graveyard, you can send 1 Gem Knight monster from your hand to the graveyard to add this thing back. Pretty cool. Fragment Fusion. Banish from your graveyard the fusion material monsters that are listed on Gem Knight fusion monster, then special summon that monster from your extra deck. Destroy it during the end phase. But if you can fusion summon a second time, then you don't have to worry about destroying it. Proxine Fusion, I have 2 copies of. Send from your hand or your side of the field to the graveyard the fusion materials that are listed on Gem Knight Fusion monster. That special summon that monster from your extra deck. And finally, Gem Knight Enhancement is the last trap. Tribute 1 Gem Knight monster, then target 1 Gem Knight monster in your graveyard. Special summon that one. So it's a good way to get the specific materials back if I need to fusion something. I've got Armadillo, Elephant, and Turtle next. Armadillo, when this thing's normal summoned, add a Gem Knight monster from your deck to your hand. This one, when it is your main phase, you can return this card from your field to your hand. During damage calculation, if this thing attacks or was attacked, you can send 1 normal monster from your hand to the graveyard to give this thing an extra 1,000 defense. Pretty solid if you have it in defense mode, which, again, Labyrinth of Nightmare would do. And then Gem Turtle, when you flip this thing, you can add 1 Gem Knight fusion from your deck to your hand. So I'm pretty sure that's just the 2 original Gem Knight fusions, but still. I've got Sapphire, I've got 2 copies of that, I've got 2 copies of Garnet, I got 2 copies of Tourmaline, I got 1 copy of Crystal, 1 copy of Lapis. Those are all the normal ones. Then I've got Obsidian. So if this is sent from your hand to your graveyard, you can target 1 level 4 or lower normal monster and special summon that. Emerald. You can banish this thing you control and one face-up normal monster you control to target one Gem Knight fusion monster in your graveyard and special summon it back. Sardonyx. This card is treated as a normal monster when it's on the field, but if you normal summon it a second time, then it becomes an effect monster with, when it destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you can add one Gem Knight card from your deck to your hand. So that one's pretty badass and definitely worth normal summoning twice. Amber, another Gem Knight. Gemini one. So again, normal when it comes in the first time, normal summon it a second time, and then it has, once per turn, you can send one Gem Knight card from your hand to the graveyard to target one of your banished monsters and add that thing back to your hand. Alexandrate, I have 2 copies of. So you contribute this thing to special summon one Gem Knight normal monster from your deck. Iolite, another Gemini. When this thing is normal summon, it's normal. And second normal summon lets you have once per turn, you can banish a gem monster from your graveyard to target one Gem Knight card in your graveyard and add that target to your hand. Gem Knight Quartz. If your opponent controls a monster, you can discard this card, set one fusion continuous spell directly from your deck. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from your extra deck for the rest of this turn, except Gem Knight monsters. If this card is used as a material for a fusion and sent to the graveyard or banished, you can add one Gem Knight monster from your graveyard to your hand, except for this thing. Pretty cool card. I have 2 copies of that, actually. And finally, 1 copy of Lazuli. If this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can normal summon one monster in your graveyard, or you can target one normal monster in your graveyard and add it back to your hand, sorry. And those are the Gem Knights. How are we doing for time? Okay, half hour. I did not keep it under how long I wanted, but we're not going to be over an hour at least, which is where I was really scared I was going. Let's get into the Crystal Beast, which is what the main thing is of this deck. And I really liked the new Crystal Beast deck that came out, so I bought several copies of it to build my own Crystal Beast deck. And then realized that I just love the Gem Knights and everything else, and it fits so well together as a theme, so yeah. So I have 2 copies of Overdragon and 2 copies of Rainbow Dragon Overdrive in this deck. We saw these in the last Yu-Gi-Oh deck, but just to go over it real quick, you need 7 Crystal Beast monsters to pull this off. Must be either fusion summoned or special summoned by tributing 1 level 10 ultimate Crystal Beast monster, so that'd be the other one over here. And once per turn, you can banish 1 Crystal Beast monster from your graveyard. This creature gains attack equal to the banished monster's attack until end of turn. You can also tribute this fusion summon card to shuffle all cards on the field into the deck, which is pretty badass. Hi, squirrel. There's a squirrel sitting outside staring at me as I do this. The other one must be special summoned from your extra deck during a duel. What the hell? Must be special summoned from your extra deck during a duel. You special summoned an ultimate crystal monster by banishing the above monsters from your field and or your graveyard. While 7 or more of your Crystal Beast monsters with different names are banished, this card gains 7,000 attack. And if this card is not battled this turn, you can tribute this card, shuffle as many cards on the field as possible into the deck, and if you do, special summon any number of banished Crystal Beast monsters. So that's kind of cool. We got a Rainbow Dragon. Couple copies of that. So, always counts as an ultimate Crystal Beast card now, which is nice. So, that helps you trigger the regular one. You cannot normal summon this card or set it. You have to special summon it from your hand by having 7 Crystal Beast cards with different names on the field and or in your graveyard. And this card cannot activate the following effects during the turn it is special summoned. You can send all Crystal Beast monsters you control to the graveyard. This card gains 1,000 attack for each monster sent to the graveyard. Or you can banish all Crystal Beast monsters from your graveyard to shuffle all cards on the field into your deck. But like I say, it cannot be activated during the turn it's special summoned, yeah. So you have to be able to keep it on the field for at least 1 turn. I have 1 copy of Malefic Rainbow Dragon, and I just love the artwork so much that I decided I had to include it in here. It cannot be normal summoned or set. Has to be special summoned by removing from play 1 Rainbow Dragon from your hand or deck. This card can only be face up. There can only be 1 face up Malefic monster on the field at a time. Other monsters you control cannot declare an attack, and if there is no field spell on the field, you have to destroy this. So all in all, this is like a really terrible card. I'm not saying it isn't, but I just felt like it was wrong not to include it because it's so cute. Crystal Beast, Rainbow Dragon. Does it count as an ultimate one? No, it does not. If this thing is destroyed in a monster zone, you can place it in your spell trap zone. And instead of sending it to the graveyard, you can use each of the following effects of this thing once per turn. When an attack is declared involving a Crystal Beast monster, you can special summon this thing from your hand. You can banish this card, treat it as a continuous spell, special summon one level 4 or lower Crystal Beast monster from your deck, but negate its effects. If you do, add a ultimate crystal monster from your deck to your hand. Neat. So there's 2 copies of that one. We've got a Sapphire. Actually, we've got 2 copies of Sapphire, which we looked at Sapphire before, but it's pretty badass. You can place one Crystal Beast monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard into your spell trap zones when this thing is summoned. And if it is destroyed, you can move it to the spell trap zone as well. Amber, I believe I have 3 copies of, but I could be wrong. Nope, just 2. When this thing declares an attack, you can change the attack target to this card. Or sorry, when you have an attack declared on you, you can change the attack target to this thing. If this face-up card is destroyed in a monster zone, blah, 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 blah. Topaz Tiger. We've got 2 of those. Yes. Okay, I have 2 of each then, probably. If this card attacks an opponent's monster, it gains 400 attack during the damage step. If this card is destroyed, blah, 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 blah. And if this cat can attack your opponent directly, but it loses half its attack when it does. And then the same thing as other things. Cobalt Eagle. Once per turn, you can have this thing you control. You can target one Crystal Beast card you control. Place that card on top of your deck instead of it being in your like continuous zone or whatever. And then blah, 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 blah. Turtle. Turtle is my favorite one, to be honest. Once per turn, you can target one face-up monster you control that attack this turn. Change that target to a defense position. If this face-up card is destroyed in a monster zone, it goes to the thing. So this one's really nice with the Labyrinth of Nightmare because this one will let me tap one of the big beefy boys that I attack with it as a crystal card. And then Labyrinth of Nightmare will untap it back so that I have something strong on the attack as well to protect myself. Crystal Beast, Ruby Carbuncle, I only have 1 copy of in this deck. When this thing is special summoned, you can special summon as many Crystal Beast monsters as possible from your spell and trap card zones. And then if this thing's destroyed, it goes back there, blah, 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 blah. Now I have the Advanced Dark ones. I have 1 copy of each of the Advanced Darks, except for 2 copies of Tortoise. So we'll go over those. We've got Pegasus, which if there's not an Advanced Dark Field Zone, all these things get destroyed. So that sucks. If this card is special summoned, you can place 1 Advanced Crystal Beast monster that is banished or in your hand, deck, or graveyard face up in your zone. Continuous spell zone. If this thing is destroyed, it goes to the zone. Mammoth. Once per turn, and when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets an Advanced Crystal Beast or Advanced Dark, then you can negate the activation once per turn. When your opponent and your Advanced Crystal Beast monster is targeted for an attack, you can negate the attack. So this thing's pretty badass. Topaz. All Advanced Crystal Beast monsters you control gain 400 attack and defense. Also Crystal Beast monsters your opponents control lose 400 attack and defense. And yeah. And that's just not on your turn, that's on everyone's turn. The dark ones are insanely powerful, to be honest. And I mean, the dark ones, the other reason why I wanted to include the Malefic Rainbow Beast Dragon is because I felt like the Malefic one is like the ultimate version of the dark ones. So yeah, at least that's the way I see it in my like headcanon. I should have put it back there. I forgot when I was setting this up. Cobalt Eagle. You can send this thing from your hand or field to the graveyard. Add 1 Advanced Dark from your deck to your hand. Once per turn, you can target 1 Advanced Crystal Beast monster you control. Return that thing to your hand or place it on top of your deck. And then it has all the other stuff. This one. All your Advanced Crystal Beast monsters can attack directly, but when they do, they lose half their attack. And if this thing is destroyed, it goes to the zone. The turtle, once per turn, you can target one face-up monster on the field, change its battle position if this thing is destroyed. And finally, the ruby carbuncle. If this thing is destroyed in a monster zone, you can place it face-up in a spell trap zone as a continuous spell instead of sending it to the graveyard. Last thing is treated as a continuous spell. You can special summon this card, then special summon as many advanced Crystal Beast monsters as possible from the spell trap zone as well. So I've got 2 copies of Rainbow Ruins, 2 copies of Advanced Dark, so I have the field spells covered pretty decently. Rainbow Ruins has all those crazy abilities that we saw last time, but basically in a nutshell, the more Crystal Beasts you have in your spell trap zone, the more effects you get. Advanced Dark is kind of crazy. All Crystal Beast monsters on the field and in your graveyard become dark. If an ultimate Crystal Beast monster attacks, negate the effects of the attack target until the end of the battle phase. And during your damage calculation, if a Crystal Beast monster you control battles and you would take damage, you can send one Crystal Beast monster from your deck to the graveyard and take no battle damage instead. Rainbow Bridge lets me add a crystal spell or trap from my deck to my hand, so I have 2 copies of that, mainly to fetch these. If I can't get Terraforming or I can't get what was that trap card? Metaverse, then I can use these to fetch those as well. Crystal Release, I have 2 copies of. We saw this last time. It gives 800 attack to a Crystal Beast monster, and I can place a Crystal Beast monster from my deck to the spell trap zone if this thing is sent from the field to the graveyard. Crystal Bond, I have 2 copies of. You can add a Crystal Beast monster from your deck to your hand and place one Crystal Beast monster with a different name from your deck face up in your trap zone, spell and trap zone. Yeah. You can only do that once per turn, but that's okay. I have a copy of Crystal Tree in here, just like the other deck. I love Crystal Tree. Each time a Crystal Beast monster is placed in a spell or trap zone, place a crystal counter on this thing. You can send this thing to the graveyard, take a number of Crystal Beast monsters from your deck equal to the number of crystal counters that were on this, and put them into your spell trap zone. So, essentially, you keep this one in here even though you get rid of some of the other Crystal Beast cards from your spell trap zones over time. And then when you really need to, you get rid of this thing and get a whole bunch of them back. Rainbow Bridge of the Heart, we have 2 copies of. During your main phase, you can normal summon 1 Crystal Beast monster in addition to your other normal summon set. You can use each of the following effects of Rainbow Bridge Heart once per turn. During your main phase, you can destroy 1 Crystal Beast card you control or in your hand. And if you do, you can destroy 1 Crystal Beast card you control or in your hand. I assume you mean discard in your hand. And if you do, add 1 Crystal Beast spell trap card from your deck to your hand. If a Crystal Beast card is placed in your spell trap zone, even during the damage step, you can target 1 card your opponent controls and return both that card and this card to the hand. Oh, okay. Crystal Promise gets me get a Crystal Beast card from my spell trap zone and special summon it. Crystal Abundance lets me do that with 4 of them. Or, no, you send 4 of them to the graveyard, pardon me. And then as many cards on the field as possible. And then you can special summon all the Crystal Beast monsters as possible from your graveyard up to the number of cards that were sent from your opponent's field to the graveyard. The Golden Rule I have 1 copy of. It counts as a crystal card. Place 2 Crystal Beast monsters from your deck face up in your spell trap zones as a continuous spell. And then special summon 1 Crystal Beast monster from your hand or graveyard with a different name than those ones. If you do, equip it with this card. And when this thing leaves the field, you have to destroy that monster. Awakening of the Ultimates I have 2 copies of. Reveal an ultimate crystal monster from your hand. Then activate one of these effects. If you control an ultimate crystal monster, you can activate 1 or 2 of these effects in sequence instead. Take a Rainbow Bridge and card or a Rainbow Refraction from your deck and either add it to your hand or send it to the graveyard. Special summon 1 Crystal Beast monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard, or spell trap zone. Do I have a Rainbow Refraction in this deck? I don't think I do. No, I don't. Unless it's a trap card. I'm pretty sure Rainbow Refraction, though, is a spell card, isn't it? Yeah. I have one in the other deck, I think. If not, I definitely have one in my collection. I'm just not playing it for some reason. Anyways, Crystal Regeki I have a couple copies of because it's a good one. Send 1 Crystal Beast from my spell trap card zone to the graveyard and destroy any card my opponent controls. Crystal Miracle I have 2 copies of. When a spell trap card or a monster effect is activated, I can destroy a Crystal Beast monster I control, and if I do, negate that activation. And if I do, destroy that target card. If a Crystal Beast monster is placed into my spell trap card zone while this thing is in my graveyard, even during the damage step, I can banish this card, and then place one Crystal Beast monster from my hand, deck, or graveyard face up into the zone as well. In addition, you can only use each effect once per turn. Crystal Brilliance I have 2 copies of. You can only activate one Crystal Brilliance, or you can only control one at a time though. Each Crystal Beast monster you control gains attack equal to its original defense. If a Crystal Beast monster is placed into a spell trap card zone, even during the damage step, you can send this face-up card to the graveyard, special summon one Crystal Beast monster from your hand or graveyard. But any damage you take this turn is halved, which is insanely good as a backup plan. Crystal Boon I have 2 copies of. Special summon up to 2 Crystal Beast monster cards from your spell trap card zone. If you do, gain life points equal to their combined original attack. If a Crystal Beast monster is placed in your spell trap card zone and this thing is in your graveyard, even during the damage step, you can banish this card, activate the top card of your deck. And if it is a Crystal Beast monster, either add it to your hand or special summon it. Otherwise, that card goes to the graveyard. It's a little bit of a risky gamble, but it could be worth it. Ultimate Crystal Magic. When your Crystal Beast monster is destroyed by battle, you can send several Crystal Beast monsters with different names from your hand, deck, and or face up on the field to the graveyard. Special summon one Ultimate Crystal Fusion monster from the extra deck. If a face-up Ultimate Crystal monster you control leaves the battlefield because of an opponent's card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard. Place any number of Crystal Beast monsters from your graveyard face up in your spell and trap zone as continuous cards. Craziness. And finally, 2 last cards. We have the Gem Flash Energy because, why not? I had it in my other deck too, and I think it's just a really funny one to have in here. It's just going to let me ping my opponent a bunch for the amount of Crystal Beasts that I decide to keep. And then finally, Crystal Conclave. Once per turn, if a face-up Crystal Beast monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon one Crystal Beast monster from your deck. You can send this thing face up from the field to the graveyard, then target one Crystal Beast monster you control and one card on the field and return both those cards to the hand. I wish I had more copies of this, but I was only able to get my hands on one. It is an insanely good card though for this deck. And that is my Crystal Beast Gem Knight Fossil deck. Essentially my let's dig some stuff up deck. I hope you guys enjoyed that deck profile as much as I enjoyed doing it for you. Kaiba, not so much. He is definitely ready to go home. So with that said, much love to you all from Kaiba the Pug and myself to you. Take care. Thank you for watching and have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Love you all.